Well, that's the metal edging. We're going to go do the same thing on the other end. Something you may want to consider is that you could put this on after the felt and it will actually hold the felt down. If you're doing a house where you've got a heated space inside, you want to use ice and water shield. That's going to stick tight to this and seal it up nice. But for a shed, this is really good. It's real easy and you don't need ice and water shield. If you've got a helper, it's pretty easy to set the felt up there and roll it down. Just get her on there where you want it. And what I do is I just tack one spot like this and then roll out a little bit and make sure we're nice and straight. Bring it down there, Brad. If you don't have a helper, you can take your measurement, roll it out on the ground and cut it right on the ground. It's a lot easier to deal with. Give yourself a little extra to work with in case you need to trim the ends. When you're working with the shed, you're working with small pieces. It's pretty easy to do this. We'll just roll it out to length and cut it off. It'll be easier to handle, but we wanted to show you both ways you can do it. And here again, just tack one spot so you can roll it out and it'll pivot on that spot that you tacked, and then get another one. And it's just gonna lay right over this apex real nice. And we left a little hanging here so we can trim it to size. You want to keep it as tight and smooth as you can, no wrinkles, but every now and then you get a couple. Just keep it as flat as you can. Now it's dried in and we've got a little time to work with those shingles. Let's go ahead and get some shingles going on here and see how it looks. A few things you may want to know about shingles is, number one, storing them in the sun's probably not a good idea. They stick together when they're in the sun, they get hot, but it's kind of cool out and the sun hasn't been out that long, so hopefully it won't be an issue. The way I pop these things open is just a quick little cut right on both sides like this, and then pull it back. And one of the myths about these is this strip on the back of the shingles. I had a guy actually try to peel these all off, and all that strip is for is to keep them from sticking together in the package. So just in case anybody tells you you need to peel that off, you don't. Let's go put some shingles on. And what you do is you put your first shingle on upside down. And the reason for this is because the way this tab hangs over the edge, you'd be able to see right through it and the water would run right through it. So what we're gonna do is just take my finger and I use the first knuckle as a spacer. You go underneath and just go to the first knuckle there on both sides. And that gives you a nice overlap. And these are, it's fun to try to hold these in place. So I'm gonna try to do both sides at the same time. And we'll space that. And that ends up being about 3/4 of an inch. We'll check it again here to make sure. Put a nail right there to hold it in place. And I'll check it here again. We don't need very many nails in this, because this actually gets shingles nailed directly over top of it. I'll go ahead and put a nail right here. And we're gonna do that right down the line. And then we need to go up the rake, as I call it. Now here's another trick. If you put this one on first, that gravity thing, if you put this one on first down here and then start this direction, you won't have to cut your first shingle. So we did start a little backwards, but we can fix it. All right, now we get serious about putting some shingles on. What you need to do is make sure that you have your reveal even all the way down. And what that is how much of this shingle is going to be exposed when the next shingle goes on over top of it. You don't want to be any further down than these tar strips, because this is what seals it together when it gets hot in the sunlight. And I would say about 6.5 inches. Read your package of shingles and it'll tell you exactly how far you want to show that. But this one's looking just about like 6.5. And you can see that your color changes here too. This color, you do not want it exposed. So we'll just put this on. Now here's the trick. Your end is going to be the same reveal, 6.5 inches, as this. And you stagger your shingles back and I'll show you how to do that. Anchorage is considered a high wind area. Imagine that. That means that you have to nail this according to high wind area code, and what that means is you have to have 2 nails per tab, which is going to give you 6 nails for each full shingle. And what you need to do is make sure that that nail is just about even with the tar line just below it, but not sticking out the bottom, because your next shingle is going to cover it. Keep watching, we'll make it more clear. Now here's where all that confusing stuff about your reveal comes in. This is your reveal. And what that has to be, I read the instructions, they call for 6 3/8. But I wasn't too far off when I guessed 6 1/2, huh? So 6 3/8 here, and you want to make sure it's even. 6 3/8 here, and 6 3/8 off of the end. We got to slide down a whole bunch. Right there. So now we go back and check. Hey, 6 3/8. Let's go ahead and put a nail in there. Okay. Once you get your starters all cut, that's the slow part. But then once those are all in place, you grab full shingles and start running. The left side is already gauged for you. You just put it up even with the other one. Well, and on the bottom, it's pretty easy. You just put it even with the bottom, right? So I'm just gonna show you how to cut the tabs here to make the ridge cap for this. And the way you know you're ready for the ridge cap is when you get to the top and 1 tab will cover that whole ridge. So what we're gonna do is cut just like I did here. We're gonna cut this off at the end. Be careful you don't cut the shingles underneath you. You could actually do this on the ground if you want and bring your pieces up. You take right from that crotch of that cut, just like that. You're gonna cut out a little triangle and basically separate each tab off of that row of shingles. With the hook blade, it's pretty easy to keep from cutting below you. And then all you're gonna do is set that right over the top and center it up so it's nice and even. Nail it down on both sides, and then put another one on and nail it down on both sides all the way down to the end. And then when you get to the end, cut 1 strip of the colored part and just nail it down right on top. Those 4 nails, you can put a little tar on them, but they don't usually cause any problems.